I'm Bob Sullivan, the new host of AARP's The Perfect Scam podcast. And with Frank Abagnale and other top fraud experts, we're bringing you brand new episodes of America's most shocking scam stories.
I got an email alerting me to 22 accounts that had been opened up in my name.
Scam was masterfully designed.
New episodes available now. Subscribe to the Perfect Scam podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Zenni offers prescription glasses starting at $6.95, as well as affordable sunglasses, blue blockers, and more. The best part? Try any frame, anywhere, with our 3D virtual try-on. Visit Zenni.com today and change the way you buy glasses forever.
The following is a Hoop Ball presentation. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast.
Hello, and welcome to Hoop Ball DFS Today. I am your host, Mike Apatrio, joined by my good buddy Dave Menkoff. We are here to break down this wonderful Thursday day slate for you guys. 7 games on tonight's slate, actually, to talk about. So a pretty loaded, packed card for this preseason. And we got some good things to talk about. I'm actually pretty excited about this slate. You know, when you have these 7 games, ownership gets spread out a little bit more. But more importantly, how are you doing over there, Brother Dave? I feel like we haven't done a show together, in what seems to be like an entire season, which in reality is about 2 to 3 months.
Doing well, Mike. I'm really excited to be on with you. It has felt a little longer. I think this entire year has felt a little longer for all of us. So it's certainly been a challenge, but I'm looking forward to hopping on with you tonight.
Absolutely, man. And absolutely. I think you hit that right on the head, man. It's definitely been a challenge for everybody. And this is kind of the little getaway that we get is having hoops back and having some preseason action. So as always, as I always recommend, guys, it's preseason, go light, have some fun with it. Obviously play smart, get that little preseason action for yourself in there where you're getting that research in there and, use the resources over here at Hoop Ball. Now that we have it, if you haven't already purchased it or if you haven't already heard, go get the Fantasy Pass, a shot, guys. It's really affordable. It's $4.99 at the moment. And it's probably the greatest thing that's ever hit this. You get access to a lot of the year-long stuff, the DFS pass, all the goodies over here. It's just $4.99 a month. And I can't imagine too many things that, you can get for $4.99 a month, let alone an entire draft guide, the Brewski 150, the DFS pass, the all-in-ones, fantasy season tools, the gambling guide. I mean, we're talking everything, $4.99 a month. So go check that out, guys. We just included that into the Discord as well. So we had that popping off tonight. That was a great little mention. But let's jump into this, man. We got a lot to get into. I don't want to spend too much time, just right off the rip. So we're going to just hop right into it. Charlotte versus Orlando. It's the first game of the night. This game's going to be taking place in Orlando. And as far as injuries are concerned for Charlotte, Gordon Hayward, just came out. He had an avulsion fracture on his 5th metacarpal, which is obviously, he looks like he broke his pinky, if I'm not mistaken. So, they're not saying he's going to miss too much time. I wouldn't expect him to play in this game, obviously, with it being a preseason, but there's a chance he's there for opening night. But obviously that means if he ends up sitting this game out, what does that mean? What does that change? Obviously someone's going to have to get inserted into that starting lineup. But before we jump into there, let's slide over to the Orlando side of the ball real quick. Terence Ross, he's somebody that's got, fully participated in practice. Decent chance he's able to suit up. He's missed the past few games as of recently, but, he's going to impact that. Rotation just slightly, not somebody that we're going to keep an eye on really for DFS. Jonathan Isaac still out. Al-Farouq Aminu still out. James Enos is being listed as questionable. He did not participate in practice on Wednesday, so it's something worth keeping an eye on. And then Mo Bamba also being listed as questionable. He's been cleared for contact, but it's probably going to take him another game. So keep an eye on that news for Mo Bamba and Enos, but the rest of it we pretty much already have. So I'll pass it over to you, Dave. I alluded to it right off the rip. Gordon Hayward, most likely I'm going to anticipate that he does sit this one out. And who are you looking to kind of step up in his place?
Yeah, no, that's a great call out. With this unfortunate new injury news, the Hornets are certainly a team that's going to need someone to step up. So for me, I really like in the backcourt, Devontae Graham coming off a nice year where he really stepped up, for the Hornets, last year when they didn't have as much, kind of talent around them. He really stepped up. I like him. His price tag is reasonable at 6,100. I think he's going to get all the looks he can kind of manage, from that standpoint. I like him a lot. And then in the front court, a couple guys coming in, should also have nice years as well. Coming off some solid years, Miles Bridges at 4,800 at the small forward spot. I like him a ton. He's a guy that should really shine now in year 2. And then another guy, in the front court, PJ Washington. A lot of hype surrounding him in year 2. 5,100 is a very reasonable price tag to pay up, to kind of save money and not pay up. Apologies. So I like the trio of those guys. And then the final person I'll probably leverage a little bit in my lineups as well is Terry Rozier, their starting shooting guard at 5,600. That price tag is also very reasonable. So across the board, very reasonable price tags on the Hornets side. How about you?
So I'm with you. I think you definitely touched on a few guys that I have some interest in. I think Rozier and Rozier and Graham are very much in play. Generally not guys I'd be targeting, but if Hayward does sit, we're going to see some usage go. Both of them had double-digit shot attempts in the last game, so I don't expect them to get too much higher. And we both, I think we know that they both could sink us pretty quick with their percentages. Off nights could happen very easily for both these guys, so I'm not very, overly confident in them. They're definitely in play. I would expect Bridges to draw the start for Hayward, so that's the guy I kind of keep my eye on right now. I played 18 minutes in that last game coming off the bench. We could probably bump that up to about 24 to 25 if he does draw that start. And, really wouldn't even shock me if we see that trickle down to LaMelo a little bit too. He played 20 in that last one. If he's somewhere around that mid-20s, we saw that he can pile up some of these counting stats pretty quickly. Had that first preseason game with 10 rebounds and 4 assists in 18 or 16 minutes or whatever it was. So it wouldn't even shock me if we see him play the 3 for a couple minutes here and there. He is 6'8". That they want to use that Rozier Graham backcourt, and if they want to try to utilize this and see what it looks like in a preseason game, I think now's the time. Wouldn't necessarily count on it, but I'm not going to rule it out either. So those are probably the 2 guys I'm the most interested in. But again, I wouldn't mind looking at a little bit of Rozier or Graham, even Washington. Orlando's not a team I want to generally target defensively as is, so I'm not trying to overload on these Charlotte guys. We know that they generally play at a slower pace, and they should generally stifle some guys. Vucevic knows how to play on the block, where I generally don't target too many bigs going against him either. So that's pretty much where I'm at with Charlotte. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to mention, or if you're just ready to kind of move on to this Orlando side of the ball.
No, I think you hit all the points as well. So I'm ready to jump into the Magic side.
Perfect. Let's roll. We'll slide over to Orlando. Terence Ross coming back. That's obviously going to have a little bit of an impact on this rotation. The guy that would probably impact the most would be a guy like Dwayne Bacon, who's been starting. And Dwayne Bacon's not good at basketball. He's, we had that one good game out of him, the first preseason game. Now that I'm saying all this, I fully expect him to burn me, but not a guy that I'm going to anyway. Neither is Terence Ross, especially at that price tag of 6,200. Just a guy that, yes, you can get the scoring in there. But it's generally empty stat lines that follow it. Not many rebounds, not many assists, just a bunch of threes. And, maybe on the best nights, he's getting 23, 24 points. So I'll pass on him. With that being said, I'll pass it over to you. Maybe, you have interest in these guys, but I would say the main guys that most people are probably looking at, going to be Vucevic, going to be Gordon, it's going to be Fultz. Those 3 guys, they're 3 key cogs, I guess, right now. And where are you at with those 3 players?
I'm actually, out of those 3, my favorite out of those 3 is right in the backcourt, Markelle Fultz. He's showing a lot of confidence preseason. He's a guy that I like a lot. At 6,000, it's certainly a very reasonable price tag again. But my favorite play of this entire matchup actually is another guy, a young rookie at UNC, Cole Anthony, at 4,600. That price tag is very reasonable, and he should get plenty of opportunity to really shine and really deliver. You mentioned it earlier, very limited preseason, so there's not a lot of opportunities for these rookies to get reps. during the preseason. So I look for him to really get as much opportunity as possible and get his minutes in the 25 to 30 range tonight.
Yeah, they've been going. The Magic have been playing very, very guard heavy too. So, not only do they play Cole Anthony pretty big minutes so far in this preseason off the bench, but Carter Williams as well. Top that with Fultz. In that last game alone, Fultz played 31 minutes. Carter Williams played 28. Cole Anthony played 27. So it just goes to show you that they're willing to play these guards outside of just point guard. Cole Anthony's probably getting a little bit of time at the 1, while Carter Williams might be playing the 2 alongside of him, and vice versa. So, I don't mind that call whatsoever. In fact, I think it's a pretty solid one, especially knowing that this Charlotte backcourt, seems like it's pretty porous at best. Rozier, Graham, LaMelo, none of those guys are really scaring me defensively. So I don't mind targeting it. And Fultz was somebody that I have circled and that I'm definitely on as well. So, it seems like we're kind of in the same notion with that. Maybe targeting this backcourt might be the better way to go. But even if you wanted to look at Vucevic, he played 33 minutes in that last game. We saw 31 out of Fultz. Do we expect that again? Do we think that's going to happen again? Like we just said off the top, there's very limited preseason. We're seeing these guys get a little bit more run than they normally would. And I'm not necessarily going to bet all on it, but at that price tag of $8K, I don't mind taking a few chances. I'll probably have anywhere between 5 and 10 lineups in this night. And he's probably going to be in at least 2 of them, maybe even 3 out of 10. So I'm going to have some exposure. And that being said, there's a lot of other high price centers that we're going to be looking at. But this is a fantastic matchup for just about everybody on the Magic right now.
Yeah, that's a great call. That's a great call, actually.
All right. Let's keep it moving to the next game. I think this next one's going to be a little bit more interesting too. It's going to have a little bit more people, on edge and watching. So we have Detroit going against Washington. This game's going to be taking place in Washington. As far as Detroit is concerned, no real injuries or news to be concerned with. And then for Washington, now this is where we get to get a little bit more interesting. We do have a few people, questionable out and expected to play. Davis Bertans right now, he is not expected to play due to undisclosed reasons. Rui Hachimura is also being listed as questionable, as is Ish Smith. Rui missed Wednesday's practice with an eye injury, so that's worth monitoring. Jerome Robinson's questionable. He's been pretty much questionable for the past few games. And right now we got to keep an eye on whether or not Russell Westbrook will play. He's being listed as questionable, but they're saying he has a pretty good chance to play and make his debut with this Wizards team. So while we have some guys, sitting out, we have somebody else possibly coming in. And I think a lot of people are going to be watching this game, pretty closely, knowing that this is Westbrook's debut. So, Dave, I'll pass it over to you. Definitely some interesting guys that we could keep an eye on, especially with I would say a majority of the starting front court sitting. So where are you kind of looking and gravitating towards now, knowing especially with Westbrook coming back, soaking up some of that usage?
Yeah, that's a great call out. So with Westbrook coming back, his price tag is high, 8,800, which is certainly pretty hefty, but he's a guy that, as you mentioned, with so many guys sitting out in this game, I would say he's a guy. I would say from the Wizards side, he's a guy that I'm looking at a lot. But in terms of on the Pistons end, if we start with the Pistons a little bit, Derrick Rose is certainly a guy that I like a lot. At 5,900, he's coming off a pretty solid game. Knowing he's a veteran, he's a guy that may not get the full boatload of minutes in this type of matchup. I like him to at least be somewhat efficient. So at 5,900, certainly worth a shot in the backcourt. And then another guy, I'm going to continue to ride the rookie train in this case and go with a guy, Killian Hayes, at 4,700. He's a guy that I like a lot. He was inefficient in his first start, but he should have plenty of opportunity since the coaching staff has already announced that he should be starting this season. So I like him a lot on the Pistons side. And then finally, on the Pistons end, my favorite play, I would say, of this entire matchup is a guy that I can never pronounce, but I love him a lot in the power forward spot, Sekou Demboya at 4,300. He's probably my favorite play this entire game.
Great options. And you know what? I would never thought we'd see a day where Derrick Rose would, in 2020 would be the highest priced player on his team for DraftKings. But here we are. And that is pretty much the case on tonight's slate right now. So, I'm looking at a couple of these guys. Killian Hayes, you touched on him. He's going to be given ample opportunity. Coach Casey came out and already said that he's going to let this kid make as many mistakes as he needs to make. He is going to be their future player, future point guard, this season's point guard most likely as well. So he's going to allow these turnovers to happen. We've been seeing plenty of them. One worry, Westbrook was a junkyard dog last season. So he used to get picked on for his defense, but he was actually an elite defender last season. So, may not be the best first matchup. He might want to pick on the rookie a little bit. So I think for that reason, I might shy a little bit away from Killian Hayes, but I don't mind it. It's still going to be a high-paced game. Should be enough pace for the Pistons. And he's still a very fair price tag at $4,700. I'm not really in love with anybody over here. If I had to, go with anybody, I would probably say it would just be like a Blake Griffin because that price tag seems awfully fair at $5,300. Derrick Rose said there's just a few other guards that we're going to get to where roughly around that same price range where I just can't get on them too much. I just want to go with somebody else. And then Grant himself, $4,500. He's going to get some shot attempts up. He's probably going to be like the second or third option on this team during the regular season. With that being said, he's still not a great point per minute guy when it comes to scoring volume. He'll get you those defensive stats. He'll be able to pick up in the rebounds. But, a lot of those rebounds are going to get soaked up from Plumlee. He's not moving out of that paint very much. And then you still have Blake Griffin there. So I'm probably going to take a hard pass on a lot of these Pistons outside of maybe an outside shot on Blake Griffin here and there. And that is probably it. So is there anything else you wanted to touch on with the Pistons, or are you ready to keep it going to this wonderful Washington Wizards team?
I'm all set. I'm ready to jump into the Wizards.
Perfect, brother. Let's do it. We talked on these injuries, so, we just talked about Westbrook, 8,800. What's your confidence in him as far as this being his first preseason game? And I guess I'll put you on the spot with your random minutes prediction. What would you expect him to come out here and play?
Yeah, that's a great call. I expect him, him being motivated to show that he's not some guy that can be just traded to the Washington Wizards. So I think he's going to really come into this game. I expect his minutes to be in the 25-minute range even, given the fact that he's going to really try and really build some rapport with his new teammates. I like him at 25 minutes. So that price tag is a bit heavy. Certainly a guy that you can throw in as a higher price player for sure. So I would say he's definitely in play for me. But there's a couple guys in the Wizards that I really am intrigued about. Troy Brown, another guy, 6,400, coming off of a very solid year last year. He's a guy that I'm going to look for quite a bit in lineups at 6,400, certainly in play quite a bit. And then again, I hate to harp on the rookie train, but big fan of their preemptive starting small forward. As of now, Danny Avdija from Israel, the 19-year-old, showed a lot of grit and a lot of ability in his first action, and I like him a lot, especially as he continues to build confidence. And if he does become the starter, it's only going to help his confidence as well. So I like him a lot tonight. And at 4,300, he's one of my favorite plays of actually the entire matchup for sure.
I'm not going to argue with Danny. I think this kid's got a great skill set. Very underrated player, even though I think he came in with plenty of hype. I still think that he was probably a little bit overlooked due to his skill set. Sometimes, we see some of these, scouts kind of judge Euro players based on the talent and who they're playing. But this kid's an absolute rock solid stud. No doubt about it. I'm kind of going to shy away from Beal. Just, I'm not reading good reports that, as far as minute workload, that he'll play a few minutes. This is also going to be one of the, his first preseason game with Westbrook. So just judging by the reports that are coming out about Beal, that he's going to play a few minutes. I don't know if we're getting trolled, if a few ends up being 30. But I'm going to try to take that with a grain of salt and take it at face value as like maybe, 15 to 20. Leading me to believe that Westbrook's probably going to play something very similar. I don't see why they would play one stud player that's younger more than the other one that's older. Just kind of the notion I'm going to go with. And with those two guys playing, it kind of takes a little bit of the juice away from Troy Brown Jr. That great game he came off of. we were on him. Well, we played him. And that was all due because of everybody sitting out, including Westbrook and Beal, Ish Smith. They didn't really have another ball handler. Raul Neto was starting at point guard. So, I can't really co-sign too many of these guys. If I'm looking anywhere, like, I think you made a great call with Denny. I would definitely look at him. He's probably the one guy. And that's maybe it. Maybe a little Thomas Bryant action if you want. I think that there's other centers and other bigs that we could play that, not even that much more expensive that we can get a couple more minutes out of. So I'll leave it at Denny. I'm not going to try to crowd my play pool. We have 7 games. We can spread the level a little bit throughout these. And then we'll keep it moving, man. We have 4 games left. We're going to touch on the San Antonio and Houston game. This game's going to take place in Houston. But before we do, just a little quick shout out to our presenting sponsors. If you guys haven't already, please go check out mybookie.ag. If you didn't get on it already, I don't know what you're doing, but seriously, now is the time to get some skin in the game with MyBookie, where the odds boost, lightning deals, and free bets await you all season long. And with that, NFL playoffs right around the corner, we know that these teams are going to have great lines, and it's not going to be difficult to find value in them either. So, whether you're a first-time customer, you've been playing MyBookie for years, there's no shortage of value to be found in thousands of game lines, unique prop bets, and contests that they offer every single week. Sign up and get reloaded today. Find an edge, make your bet, and get paid, guys. There's also a fully fledged casino platform that gives you access to classic table, slot, and card games you'd expect to find at your local spot. And the best part is MyBookie's doors never close, and you can continue to build your break roll even when the stadium lights go out. So head over there, guys. Use that promo code HOOPBALL. That's HOOPBALL, and they will give you a 50% match on your deposit all the way up to $1,000. The terms are simple. You deposit $200, for instance, you will get a free $100 deposited back into your bank account that you can play with, and that's free money you can bet with. So go over there, mybookie.ag, use that promo code HOOPBALL, HOOPBALL. And while we're at it, guys, check out Manscaped as well. I got my weed whacker, boys. It's in here, and ladies, excuse me. If you haven't already heard me say it is the nose and ear trimmer. It makes a perfect gift for your significant other or friends, or if you just need one for yourself. I highly recommend this thing. It's quiet as a little baby snoozing. I would say that was probably a terrible reference because I don't know what babies are actually out there snoozing. But this thing's an absolute gem, and I just packed it in there with the rest of my kit. I have the Lawnmower 3.0. I got the shea butter. I got the body wash. I got a little bit of everything, and they are the one product that I could fully endorse and get behind because it's simple. It comes right to my door as well. So use that promo code HoopBall20 over there. You'll get 20% off your free first purchase, free shipping, and all the good stuff. So promo code HoopBall20, HOOPBALL20. All right, man. It's always a mouthful. I gotta get the sip of the water in there. We'll move on. Move on to the third game. San Antonio going against Houston. This one I have some interest in, man. There's a couple of options that we have to talk about though. San Antonio injury wise though, Keldon Johnson is going to be out for the next few weeks. We could say the same about Derek White. That report just came out, but we're also going to be missing some of the bottom of the barrel guys. Keltabate Diop, Luka Samanic, and Quentin Weatherspoon will all be out as well. And then when we're looking over at the Houston side of the ball, Christian Wood is being considered questionable, more likely doubtful. He hasn't really suited up that much in the preseason. And it's worth noting that this is the Rockets preseason finale as well. And that's pretty much it. And other than Chris Clemens, we saw him just tore his Achilles tendon, unfortunately, in that last preseason game. Immediately grabbed at it and had to get wheeled off the court. So he's likely done for the season. And I think they're trying to get the exception, that or they have to trade him. So we'll start off with this San Antonio team. We have some options. Pop's been playing these guys decent minutes. We've been seeing some decent things. So what's the first thing that you gravitate towards when you see the Spurs are on the docket?
Yeah, when I see the Spurs, normally, it's going after some of the tried and true guys, the guys that's really been seeing a lot of minutes. But with this preseason, I think there's been a lot of opportunity for some of the younger guys. So a guy that is expected to grow quite a bit, Lonnie Walker the fourth, coming off all of a very solid game, 4,500. I like him quite a bit. And then another guy that I think in preseason he's really stepped up and proven quite a bit of a steal from this year's draft from Florida State, Devin Vessel. $4,400 is a very reasonable price tag. Normally Pop really hates rookies, but with preseason the way it is this season in this truncated format, I like him quite a bit on the Spurs side. So those two are my two favorite plays on the Spurs end. How about you?
I can't argue with you with Vessel. I mean, this kid looks good. He just looks so NBA ready. Very intelligent player. Great price tag, only $4,400. Played 31 minutes in that last game, so I definitely have some interest. You said Lonnie Walker. I'll probably put my focus more towards DeJounte Murray. You can't go wrong with either one. Both should start. Walker, obviously the better value, much cheaper, $2,100. But Murray with no White, he's going to get full opportunity just to handle a lot of this point guard duties. It's not like Patty Mills needs to come in here, play a whole lot of minutes and prove himself at this point in his career. So, I like when I know Murray's like kind of locked into just, not having to look over his shoulder, get pulled for White anytime. So if he plays 25, 26 minutes, we know what this guy can do. He's a rebounding machine at the guard position as well. So, those are the two guys I have the most confidence in. But, listen, Walker at $4,500, I think that's a great call, and I'm definitely going to put a star next to him. And I think it makes a good pivot play as opposed to Murray if you want to get some other exposure in the backcourt and not necessarily pay up at that price tag. What about this Houston side of the ball? Christian Wood, I could play, could not play. I'd probably have him on the better side of doubtful. Well, something worth monitoring. But, let's say he does play. How are we going to take this at face value now with Wood, Cousins, Wall, and Harden all back?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, for me, normally regular season, the Rockets are an immediate target for me. So many guys that can really light it up. But with Harden working his way back, he didn't look too nimble in his first game. Again, John Wall him and Cousins have looked great. If Christian Wood does return, $7,300 is a pretty reasonable price tag given the hype around him in that front court. So I like him quite a bit if he does play. If he sits out, the guy that I'm looking at is Daniel House Jr. To be honest, at $4,700, they're running out of bodies on the wing side in the Rockets. So he's a guy that I'm looking at, but in general, I wouldn't just based on what I've seen, there's no one on the Rocket side that I'm really looking at too closely in this case. How about you?
We're on the same page, man. I'm not really interested in any of these Rockets guys right now. It's just, it's not necessarily because Harden looks a little chubby and he's out of shape. That's not it. It's simply just because, if I'm going to pay that 91 for Harden, there's somebody else on this slate I'd rather go to. All these guys are healthy. They're going to have a deeper rotation at this point. I don't expect, them to roll out, Harden, Wall, or Cousins, or even Wood, anything probably more than 24 minutes, somewhere around there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it proves me wrong. I just can't see it happening. And for that reason, I'm just going to go elsewhere on this slate. Let other people pay up. These guys aren't cheap. John Wall, $7,900, Harden, $91, Wood, $73, Cousins, $65. I'll save my money. I'll go to other spots where I have a little bit more confidence in. I could see them being more of GPP guys if you want to take flyers on them. Just in case there's other people kind of, think of the same way as me and, fading that ownership. So that's it. That's all I got for Houston though, man. I think we're pretty much on the same page. So we'll keep it moving over to the Atlanta-Memphis game. Atlanta traveling to Memphis. As far as injuries are concerned.
Want a job where you can use your talents, make a difference, and have the freedom of remote work? Then meet Belay. Belay has contractor opportunities for proven professionals, providing administrative support and social media strategy to fast-paced organizations throughout the United States, all from your home. To learn more, just visit belaysolutions.com/jobs to apply. That's BELAY solutions.com/jobs.
Two kinds of bacon and all kinds of delicious. Say hello to Donato's new Bacon Duo pizzas. Two pizzas, each with two kinds of bacon. Try the new Pepperoni Bacon Duo with pepperoni, Canadian bacon, and hardwood smoked bacon. And the Chipotle Bacon Duo with Canadian bacon and Chipotle seasoned bacon. Now get $2 off a large Bacon Duo or any large pizza. Use promo code 2. Donato's. Every piece is important.
Capella He's currently being listed as questionable. It's a left Achilles soreness, something that this guy's been dealing with for quite some time. So I fully anticipate him to suit up. I mean, he's been playing through this, but that's not it. We have a ton of other things to talk about. Kevin Huerter also being listed as questionable right now. He's dealing with left ankle soreness. Cam Reddish being listed as questionable. He was dealing with ankle soreness. He was actually listed to play, and then last game, did get ruled out. Rajon Rondo being listed as questionable. He's more doubtful. And then we have Tony Snell, Chris Dunn, both ruled out. Double O as well, following him, ruled out. And then on the Memphis side of the ball, Brandon Clark being considered questionable, more on the doubtful side of things. Jaren Jackson Jr., Justice Winslow still out. We won't be seeing them for some time. So I'll pass it over to you on the Atlanta side of things. A lot to like with Atlanta. They did a lot of off-season moves. I mean, half these guys got some sort of injury tag next to them. So, a lot of this is going to have to be updated once we monitor the news. But what are you kind of watching in this matchup between these two young teams? A lot of young talent between these two teams.
Yeah, you definitely nailed it. With Atlanta, it's certainly fun. It's going to be a fun season for sure. In terms of who really like on their side, I mean, there's a ton of guys that I'm looking at. So I think it always starts with Atlanta when we're talking about Atlanta. It always starts with Trae Young, 8,500. It's a fairly reasonable price tag. He's a guy that can fill it up in limited minutes. I like him quite a bit in that backcourt. And then another guy that's a new addition on the Atlanta side, probably one of my favorite plays of this matchup is Bogdan Bogdanovich at 4,600. Look for him to continue to gel with his new teammates and really shine. So I like him quite a bit. Those are my two favorite plays. And then on the wing side, DeAndre Hunter, 4,700, looking more and more comfortable. If Cam Reddish does sit out, then I like him even more. So at 4,700, he's another guy I'm looking at. And then the final guy I'm looking at in the front court, John Collins, 7,400. Should have a decent matchup here. So I like him as well. How about you?
I got a couple guys I got on my radar on this team. I'm going to be keeping an eye on, DeAndre Hunter. Like you said, if Cam Reddish sits, this guy, he's trying to step up. I think him and Reddish are both competing to try to be this team's best wing defender. They're both kind of, volleying for that job. They know that, with all these veterans being added that they got to compete. And he's been playing well during this preseason. There's no doubt about that. So still a very fair price tag to me. I don't mind paying that 4,700. He never draws a ton of ownership, not necessarily the biggest and flashiest name out there, especially amongst these second year guys. So he's a guy I keep on my radar. And obviously I'm never going to say don't play Trae Young, especially in a matchup against Ja Morant. We know that both these guys, it's picture perfect. They both can just get buckets and neither one of them plays defense. So I'm fully anticipating Trae Young and Ja Morant lighting this game up. There is one guy we'll get to. I do want to spend up on, and I'm pretty sure that he's going to probably be owned at about 75%. But in the case of the 25%, I will have some Trae Young. He will be probably my second highest owned guy, or my second most expensive owned guy. And that's probably it for Atlanta. So I'm ready to move on to Memphis if you are.
Absolutely. Let's jump into it.
All right, we just said it, Ja Morant. That's where I might as well just pick up where I left off, man. And he's $200 more than Trae Young. I think both these guys are phenomenal plays going against each other. Atlanta's got 2 preseason games left, so they're eventually probably going to do it pretty close to a dress rehearsal game. Some coaches like to do it in the third or the second to last game. Some coaches like to do it in the final game. There hasn't been anything I've really found so far that determined whether or not it's going to be this one or the last one, but I still anticipate that both these guys are hovering around that 25-minute mark at the very least, maybe up to the 28. So both of them very much in play. Jonas Val Tunis, though, 8,400. We know he's a great point per minute guy, so he's not a guy that necessarily needs 30 minutes to get it done. So what do you think about him going against his new, reformed Clint Capella front court?
I absolutely love him. You definitely nailed it. He's probably one of my favorite top-end center power forward plays. So I really love him in this matchup.
Awesome, man. Yeah, no, I'll never argue with Joe Val. And we know that Atlanta likes to pick up the pace in this one. Yes, they got some veterans, but let's be real, half those veterans aren't even really in the starting lineup. They're still pretty young in that starting lineup. So I anticipate that this team still tries to push the pace a little bit. Clint Capella is a rim running center as well, so they're not afraid to just keep pushing that. So used to doing that in Houston. I'll back some Val Tunis. 8,400 is a little pricey, but we know what he can do, man. In 26 minutes, he can easily go out there and get 18, 16 boards. We've seen him do it before. It's crazy. Not saying he is, but we've seen it. And that's it. I'm not really going near anything else on this team. Kyle Anderson, Dylan Brooks, guys that just not high point per minute volume type guys that I'm interested in. So I'll probably take a pass outside of the two studs on the Grizzlies. Unless you have anything else to say, man, we're cruising through this right now. We're mowing. We're 32 minutes in. We're about to have 2 games left. So, should we just keep this pace? Keep motoring?
Let's do it. Let's
get it, man. Minnesota versus Dallas. This is going to be, I believe, both of their final preseason games. This game's going to take place in Dallas. As far as Minnesota is concerned, D'Angelo Russell has been ruled out. He's dealing with right ankle soreness, so he's not going to be taken to court. So as Naz Reid also has ruled out. And that's pretty much it for things that we need to consider for Minnesota. And then for Dallas, Porzingis obviously sitting out. Courtney Lee's being listed as questionable. But as of right now, I believe he's expected to play. Something worth monitoring. He might end up cracking that rotation a little bit. But I'll pass it over to you. We'll start with this Minnesota side of the ball. Knowing that we're not going to have any D'Angelo Russell, that's obviously going to have a major effect on what the shot attempts are going to do and what this rotation looks like. So, what are you anticipating and who are you looking at to capitalize with Russell being out?
Yeah, with Russell out, I mean, there's not a lot of guys, but for me, I'm looking at, again, another rookie, Anthony Edwards, 4,600, should have plenty of opportunity to really shine. I like him quite a bit. 4,600, I mean, he's a guy that should, he's not afraid to shoot. So he should put up, I'm pretty confident in him putting up, double-digit shot attempts in this type of matchup. So I like him. And then the other guy that's going to really shine with Russell, sitting out, Malik Beasley at 4,500. Very great, very reasonable price tag, a guy that really stepped up late last year. And I like him quite a bit tonight. At that price tag, 4,500 is a great steal as well. I like him. And then of course, you can't go wrong with Karl Anthony Towns, the big man, 8,200. He's my favorite play in this entire matchup. I think he's going to feast as well. How about you?
I think you hit it on the head. I mean, I'm not so much on Edwards, but Malik Beasley he's my favorite play in this matchup. I love Malik Beasley in this matchup, but no Russell. Those shot attempts, that volume, he is not afraid to just grab a hold of it and take it. We've seen him have some of his best games last season when Russell was out. So, I'm gonna sign myself up. Yes, I think Towns was out of those games as well. But that being said, Beasley should still be looking at close to double-digit shot attempts. I would say minimum of 10 shot attempts. So I'm going to be playing some Beasley at 4,500. I don't mind looking at Ricky Rubio at 47. He should draw the start. He's been playing about 20 minutes off the bench with Russell out. Might bump up to about 24, 25. Not a bad price tag. Pretty decent matchup too, going against Dallas. And then Towns, like you said, I probably prefer Towns over Valanciunas. Just at that, very similar price tag. I'd probably prefer him over Vucevic as well. That one's a little bit closer. If I had to rank them, it'd probably go Towns, Vuk, Valanciunas. But I do feel a little bit more secure in Vucevic minutes than Towns. So take that for what it's worth. I think, those two guys are definitely above Valanciunas by just a little bit on my board, though, either way. And that's it. I'm not going to get too cute here. It's just going to be Beasley. It's just going to be Towns and a little bit of Rubio as well. And then on this Dallas side of things, though, this is where, things get a little interesting for me. I can't blush about my boy Luka enough, and maybe a little homer it, but, I'm going to have some Luka on this slate, man. He's the guy I've been talking about, 9K. He's the guy I want to spend up on anybody. We just saw him play some pretty big minutes in that last one. After the game, Carlisle was asked what this game would look like. Would it be a dress rehearsal? And he stopped everyone pretty much short and said, it's not going to be a complete dress rehearsal, he said. But I'm going to get a good look at the first and second unit in this one. So most anticipation and what it's, reading between the lines is looking like is that these starters are probably going to play, about the first 3 quarters, and then the fourth quarter they're not. With that being said, that's pretty much saying Luka, in my eyes, is going to be playing anywhere between, 25 to 28 minutes. And you know what this kid can do point per minute wise in that amount of time. So that's enough minutes for me to sign up for some Luka Doncic. I'm done talking. I can only talk about Luka so much before people probably get sick of it. So I'll pass it over to you, Dave. What's your thoughts on the Mavericks?
Yeah, no, Luka's I know you're a big Luka guy, but I'm going to say that I'm also in on Luka. That 9,000 price tag, I mean, we're going to see that price tag jump up to 11,000 in no time when the regular season kicks off. So might as well take advantage of that price tag given it's preseason. So I like that quite a bit. And then another guy that I think has really had an opportunity to have a comeback year is Jay Richardson. I like him, 5,700. He's a guy that's going to get plenty of shot attempts with Luka running the point. He's a guy that can get steals as well. So I'm going to have a few shares of him, but for the most part, you nailed it. Luka all the way on the Mavs side.
Yeah, it's a good call, Jay Rich, too. He's coming off a fantastic game, trying to kind of get that back. He was never really comfortable playing in Philadelphia. You know, I don't think anybody in that locker room really is. I still don't know if they are. Doc Rivers surely does help probably glue them together a little bit more. But Jay Rich was never really comfortable, never really looked like himself over there in Philly. That whole year kind of felt a little lost. So, I think it was a good move for both teams. Dallas got their defender and Philly got the shooter that they needed. So, one hand washes the other. But we got one game left, man. Then we're wrapping this thing up. We're going to move on to it. It's Golden State. It's going against Sacramento. Game's going to be in Sacktown. We'll start with Golden State. Draymond Green and James Wiseman already ruled out, but both these guys are practicing. They are taking the court. Eric Paschall, he's being listed as questionable right now, but he was ruled out with that knee soreness in Tuesday's game, so monitor it. Wouldn't be shocked if he just ends up sitting this other one. Obviously, Klay Thompson is still out as well. And then on the Sacramento side of things, we definitely have some news to monitor. Jabari Parker, Corey Joseph both ruled out, as we know. Oh, and Daquan Jeffries also ruled out. I apologize. Marvin Bagley and Hassan Whiteside. Neither one of these guys listed on the injury part. Both of them ended up playing a couple of minutes in that last one. So they are back. Let's start off with this Golden State team, man. Curry looked good. He looked good in that last preseason game. He looked like regular Curry, 8,100. That seems like a more than fair price tag for him. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Curry is actually probably one of my favorite backcourt guys. I really hate to do it to your guy Luka, but I like him at a $900 savings quite a bit in this type of matchup. He's a guy that's going to carry a huge load for the Warriors this season, so I like him quite a bit. And then another guy, I would say on the Kings side, on the Warriors side, apologies, that I really like that really show that he's going to be an NBA player, and it's really exciting to see, is Marquise Chris, 5,500. He's their starting center. I like him quite a bit. So those are the two guys I'm targeting from the Warriors side. What about you?
Yeah, I think you can keep looking at Chris. As long as, Wiseman, Draymond Green both ruled out, they have to play someone at the center position. And Chris, he's a solid point per minute guy, especially when there's nobody else to really take some of those shots on the floor. So, I don't mind looking at Marquise Chris. Price tag bumped up a little bit to 5,500. Curry, 8,100. You heard me say, I think it's a very fair price tag, more than fair. Do I play a lot of them? I don't know if I end up getting there just because of all the other guys I've already talked about. But, when you're comparing him to some of the other guys around his price range, the Trae Youngs of the world, he's very much in play. I prefer him over guys like, Westbrook. I prefer him over the Beal. I prefer him, over, Harden. I guess the only guy he really does compare to is going to be that Towns, is going to be that Luka range and, John Morant, but he's also, the cheapest one of them. So it really depends on your build, in my opinion, if you want to get exposure to him, depending on where you're using that other extra salary, that $600 or that, extra $800, $900 that you have left over. But either way, fantastic play. I'm honestly going to be just probably looking at that front court a little bit. Wiggins is somebody I also looked at just because I know Sacramento's given up a plethora of points to opposing shooting guards over the past couple, I would say 2 or 3 seasons at this point. But again, he hasn't been necessarily playing great offense during this preseason, mostly been working on his defense. So I'll probably just stick with Chris and then, that's it, man. I'll probably keep it moving after that. And then on the Sacramento side of things, I think things get a little bit more interesting. We've been seeing some guys compete. We're kind of starting to see what this team could possibly look like with all their key guys kind of healthy. Darren Fox steps in at 7,500. He's a guy that I'm expecting big things out of this season, really expecting a big step forward. I love that price tag, and he's, probably been my favorite play on this entire team throughout the entire preseason, so I don't see why I'm stopping. He's definitely a guy of interest at 7,500. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, he's a great call out. He's actually another guy. I mean, I think tonight's slate especially, some of the top end guards are really loaded. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm going to look at ownership for the most part to see and try and figure out which guys are really going to have the lowest ownership, so I can really tackle them, because there's so many guys that have the opportunity in this type of preseason setting to really go off. And I like Fox 7,500. Sign me up for him quite a bit. And then a couple other guys in that same Kings backcourt that I like, the shooting guards. Another rookie. I'm going to keep harping on them you're going to see that the entire season. Guys like Tyrese Halliburton from Iowa State. Very talented, coming off a quiet game for his standard. But a guy that should get an opportunity to get in minutes in the high teens and low 20s. And at 4,400, that's enough to hit some value, given his skill set. And then a guy that, didn't really get an opportunity last season, but a guy from Virginia, Kyle Guy, the sniper hero, of their last game where he hit that game winner the other night, 4,700. I mean, you might as well ride the hot hand in preseason. So, I definitely sign me up for some Kyle Guy as well, on the Kings side.
That shot was hilarious. That whole sequence. I think this kid, and he said it, he always has to prove himself. He can shoot. There's no doubt about it that kid could shoot. He could shoot the gym lights out right away. Halliburton, I think that's a fantastic call. You touched on it. I agree. I think he does play a little bit more. He only played 15 minutes, I think, in that last one, or he was very limited. But that's because he played 30 minutes prior. Coach's plan going into that game was to limit Halliburton because he did play 30 minutes. So I expect him to bump that back up. Maybe not necessarily 30, but at least mid-20s is what I would expect from Halliburton. So, he's definitely a guy that I'd like at 4,400. Probably the only other guy I'm really looking at. I'm going to avoid the front court. Whiteside, great point per minute guy, but, does he come out here and play 25, 26 minutes? He easily could pay off that price tag with no problem in that, but, still competing with Rashawn Holmes over there, Marvin Bagley healthy. They're going to start divvying up these minutes all over the place. And even Bagley at 4,100, not expecting a whole lot minutes-wise, but still, that's a fantastic price for a guy that we know can average at least a DK point per minute. So those are the guys I'm pretty much looking at. If I had to order them, Fox if I have the money. If I don't have the money, I don't mind looking at Halliburton to save some. And then that's probably where I'm cutting it off. I don't mind Buddy Hield at 7,200. I'll always prefer De'Aaron Fox, but he's been chucking it. He's been basically averaging at least like 15 shot attempts throughout this preseason, so I expect him to continue shooting. And I think that's it, brother. I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to touch on with this Sacramento team before we get on out of here.
No, I don't. I figured we can also jump into some Jazz Clippers as well, since we have a few minutes as well. I don't know how you feel about that.
Oh yeah, maybe I'm trying to get out of here a little early. I guess we could do some Jazz Clippers. Why not? I guess we won't just skirt out of here too early. So let's be good call. Jazz versus Clippers. As far as Jazz are concerned, injury wise, Warris O'Neal is being considered questionable. He missed on Monday's preseason game dealing with knee soreness, and that's really the only other guy other than Shaq Harrison that has a rotation right now, role in the rotation that is being considered on the injury report. And then for the Clippers, Marcus Morris Sr. is being listed as questionable. He's day-to-day dealing with knee soreness. I would fully expect him to sit out. This sounds like it's going to be something that lingers into the regular season, so do not expect Marcus Morris Sr., and that's really it as far as the Clippers are concerned. So with the Jazz, man, we really could have just skipped this game, right? No? I mean, did we? I guess we probably could have just, hopped off right then and there, and I never like to say that with the late game, but there's not a ton going on over here with the Jazz, to be honest. I'm not really looking at Mitchell at 7,600. I just mentioned guys like Fox, and we talked about a few other guys that 500 or 600 on slates that are in the preseason. It's not hard to find. You can easily get that extra $600 or $500 and go to a Steph Curry. So that's probably what I would do. Again, we know what Mitchell could do. Wouldn't fault you for it. He's one of those guys that can just have it on any given night. But for the most part, man, I'm not playing any of these guys. I just don't trust Bogdanovich with the wrist injury, still dealing with it a little bit. Mike Conley, I want to see it before I can believe it. Paying that price tag for Gobert. Oh, we got a little pop up in the back about the checkings and the savings, but and that's it, man. I really don't have a ton of interest in just about anybody on the Jazz team, so I'll pass it over to you. Maybe there's something that you see that I'm not seeing, and if so, please enlighten me, because they're just boring.
I mean, besides checking and savings, I would say for me, on the Jazz side, I mean, to your point, yes, this game is a pretty boring game overall from a fantasy standpoint and from a DFS standpoint. However, if you're really interested in playing that contrarian song, there's certainly opportunity, because you mentioned it, this game is going to be a forgotten game in tonight's slate. So you can see some of these guys, if they get some minutes, like a guy like Gobert, 7,100, I mean, that's a reasonable price tag. If you want to be a contrarian and not play Karl-Anthony Towns or Val Tunis in the 8,000 price range, and you want to go down to Gobert at 7,100, and if he ends up having one of those typical Gobert games with 20 rebounds, I mean, he's a guy that can pay off handsomely, and he's a guy that's probably going to come in at like 10% ownership at best. So that's what my angle that I'm looking at from the Jazz side.
That's a great call, man. I really love that call, because the more I think about it, I think everyone's going to spend up on center when they look at Gobert. He's cheaper. He's not that much cheaper though, where you just say, why don't I just spend up a little bit more, for the more tantalizing and I guess you could say like sexy DFS plays. So, I love that call on Gobert. Yeah, definitely something I'm going to take into account. That's a great call, especially on the ownership. I think that 10% might be right on the head.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
What else are you looking at? Anything else on the Jazz? Like, what else stands out to you? Or just the Gobert guy?
I mean, another one that kind of stands out for me a little bit, I have some interest. Again, it's that ownership game, in that small forward position. Joe Ingles, 4,600. I don't expect too much ownership on him. He's a guy that can get some assists, get some points. So from a DFS perspective, I'm going to have a little bit of Joe Ingles. I don't know if I'll have Ingles and Gobert in many of my lineups, but I'll sprinkle in some Ingles in lineups that I don't have Gobert, just to make my lineups a little bit more versatile from that standpoint.
All right, brother. And what about on this Clippers side? So Marcus Morris likely sitting. That means likely that power forward spot might get shifted up a little bit. We're going to end up seeing somebody move up, whether it's George, Leonard, most likely Leonard. But I'm not anticipating big minutes from any of these guys. It's just the Clipper way of life, I think, at this point. I just don't really trust them. If you told me Kawhi Leonard was getting the minutes, no doubt about it, 8,600 is a great price tag. I'd pay it. Paul George at 69. I'm probably more inclined to pay that if I had to look at anybody. It would probably be more of a tournament. That's a fantastic price tag for Paul George. If it's even sniffing anywhere near that during the regular season, I'm hopping all over it. It's just the minutes. That's the one thing that worries me. So, I'll probably get to take a pretty hard pass on just about all these guys. And it could even be Batum that gets slotted in the starting lineup. But even then, veteran guys like, I think 34, 35, might even be 36 at this point. So, the minutes, I can't get past that. So I'll pass it over to you again, man. That's why I kind of wish we just, I might as well have just skipped it. But you saw that good Gobert call, so I think it was all worth it. But maybe you got something on the Clippers that you can point out to me as well.
Yeah, I mean, on the Clippers side, you definitely nailed it. There's no guarantee on minutes on the Clippers side. There's no way of knowing who's going to get any minutes. So that's certainly a challenge. A guy that I like to play a little bit here and there, again, strictly an ownership play as well, is Terence Mann. I mean, 4,300. He definitely has some talent. He's shown flashes of it during the bubble, where he's put up some nice lines, where he's able to score and get some nice boards. He's a large guard, so I think he's a guy that can really fill it up. The question is whether he's going to get 25, 30 minutes. Someone has to get minutes in the Clippers, right? So why not Terence Mann at 4,300 is kind of my point of view on the matter.
Yeah, I like that call. I think Santino's another guy that's generally pretty high in Terence Mann as well. So, I'm sure he's fully backing you when he's listening to this as well. All right, man. I mean, that's pretty much all I had. I don't know if you have anything else. I don't think there's any hitting games right now that, we need to talk about after this one, but, is there anything else on the Clippers that you have, keyed up or?
No, I think we covered everything on the Clippers side.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, That's all I got. I mean, I think this is going to be a very, very unique slate. I think there's a lot of different combinations and ways you can go about this. Touching on tonight's slate as we're recording this, it's about 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A lot of good action, a lot of good things going on right now in a lot of my lineups. I had a ton of Levine. I had some Kobe White where I did play Levine, so both those guys smashed it through the ceiling. I think the only thing I really missed out on was Drummond, but I had a fair amount of Jokic, and he's doing fairly well right now as well, so I can't complain. He's got over 40 DK points, so fingers crossed. Looks like I'm going to be cashing again tonight. It doesn't look like necessarily the full blown nuts in any of these lineups, but Dave, if we're profiting, that's all that matters, buddy. That's it. In the green, that's it. So, what do you got? What do you got going on? Snow day tomorrow. You're snowed in. What are you doing? Anything special?
Given the COVID and everything, snowed in is just like any other day, it seems, in 2020. So for me, it's just another day in the office, aka my home office in my bedroom. So that's what I'm doing. What about you?
I'm the same thing, man. I'm hunkered down, and that's a very fair point you have. I'll be shoveling the sidewalk, shoveling the porch, shoveling the cars out. I'll be doing all that good stuff, but outside of that, I'll be hunkering down with a nice cup of hot cocoa. But, thank you guys for listening. As always, if you can give us a quick follow on Twitter, you can find me at Mike Apotria, MikeApotria. Dave, why don't you let the good people know where they can find you?
You can find me at DMENK33 as well.
Awesome. And if you guys would please be so kind to go on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you might be listening to the podcast, give us a thumbs up, rate and review, comment, all that good stuff. It means a lot to us. You guys hear me say it all the time. Really just keeps us growing. It allows us to keep continuing and keep adding new things like we keep doing over here. And if you guys haven't seen, this season is going to be the biggest and best one that we've had over here at Hoop Ball. So we're expecting big things, but we will be back tomorrow. I believe it'll be Brent and Dave. You'll be back on tomorrow as well. So you guys get to get a good dose of Dave 2 days in a row. And that is it. So thank you guys for listening over here at Hoop Ball. From Mike Apotria, Dave Metcalf. We really do appreciate everything. Take care. Let's go crush some GPPs and some preseason slates.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.
Visit Hellsberg.com for safe and easy ways to shop this holiday, like free shipping and returns, virtual shopping appointments, or buy online and pick up in store. And right now, get a free Microsoft Surface Go 2 with the purchase of $1,499 or more. You gift, you get. Limited time offer while supplies last. See online or in store for details.